We live in an era where the quest for self-acceptance has become a constant challenge. Amid unattainable standards of perfection and the relentless pressure of social media, many people feel trapped in a cycle of self-criticism and insecurity. However, it is precisely in this context that Buddhist teachings offer a transformative approach to achieving genuine self-acceptance. In Buddhism, self-acceptance isn't merely about liking who you are or loving yourself unconditionally as is often promoted in the Western world. Instead, it's a profound process of understanding one's own nature, our imperfections, and the suffering that inevitably accompanies human existence. Embracing this perspective allows us to view ourselves with more compassion and less judgment. Despite their ancient origins, Buddhist teachings offer practical and timeless answers to modern issues. Rather than seeking external solutions or trying to control circumstances beyond our reach, Buddhism invites us to look inward and transform our relationship with ourselves. When we accept our limitations and recognize the beauty in our imperfections, we take a significant step toward a more balanced and fulfilling life. This guide aims to explore how Buddhist philosophy can lead us on a journey of self-acceptance, providing profound insights and concrete practices to integrate these teachings into our daily lives. At the heart of Buddhist teachings lies the concept of dukkha, often translated as suffering, though its meaning is broader, encompassing dissatisfaction, discomfort, and a lingering sense that something is missing in our lives. The idea of dukkha is one of the Four Noble Truths taught by the Buddha, which acknowledges that suffering is an inevitable part of human existence. At first glance, this may seem pessimistic, but Buddhism encourages us to face this truth with courage and openness. Rather than fleeing or denying suffering, Buddhism suggests that we should acknowledge it as a natural part of life. This recognition, paradoxically, is the first step toward true self-acceptance. When we accept that pain, disappointments, and difficulties are inherent to existence, we stop punishing ourselves for feeling these emotions. Often, rejecting suffering creates an inner resistance that only amplifies our pain. We try to distract ourselves, pretend that everything is fine, or blame external factors for our discomfort. However, by embracing the concept of dukkha, we learn to stop fighting against reality. This is an essential step for self-acceptance, as it allows us to be honest about our own experiences without judging them as good or bad. By acknowledging dukkha, we make room for accepting who we truly are, with all our flaws and vulnerabilities. Rather than seeing ourselves as broken or inadequate for not always being happy, we can understand that suffering is part of what it means to be human. Accepting this truth frees us from unrealistic expectations of perfection, allowing us to live with more authenticity and inner peace. One of the most challenging and transformative concepts in Buddhism is anatta, which can be translated as non-self. In contrast to the Western belief that each person possesses a fixed, unchanging identity, Buddhism teaches that there is no permanent, independent self. Instead, what we call I is, in reality, a continuous flow of experiences, thoughts, emotions, and sensations that change from moment to moment. The concept of anatta may initially feel unsettling, as most of us strongly identify with our roles, titles, and life stories. We believe that our identity is solid and permanent. I am this person, I have these qualities, or I am defined by my experiences. However, this belief in a fixed self can become a source of suffering, especially when we cannot live up to our own expectations or those others place on us. When we understand that we are not a fixed self, we begin to see that our identity is fluid and constantly evolving. This realization gives us the freedom to let go of the labels that limit our self-view. For example, if we identify strongly as a failure because of a mistake, we carry that burden into everything we do. However, when we see that the self who made that mistake is not the same self as in this very moment, we can let go of self-criticism and open ourselves to the present. This understanding also allows us to accept our flaws and imperfections with more ease. After all, if there is no fixed self, there is no need to cling to an idealized image of who we should be. This is liberating, as it offers us the opportunity to reinvent ourselves in each moment, free from the weight of past expectations. At the core of Buddhism, we find the concept of karuna, or compassion. While we often associate compassion with caring and kindness toward others, Buddhism reminds us that this quality should also be directed inward. True compassion involves accepting our imperfections and flaws with the same kindness we would offer a friend in difficulty. When we cultivate karuna, we open ourselves to a more loving and welcoming relationship with ourselves, instead of falling into the trap of self-criticism. We are often our harshest critics, judging ourselves harshly for our mistakes and failures. However, the path to self-acceptance involves recognizing that we are human and, therefore, fallible. Rather than striving for perfection, Buddhism teaches us to be compassionate with ourselves, understanding that our mistakes are part of learning and the journey of life. When we treat our errors with kindness, we allow them to become opportunities for growth rather than sources of shame. One of the most effective methods for developing self-compassion is through the practice of metta, or loving kindness. In metta meditation, we begin by directing feelings of love and kindness toward ourselves, something that can be incredibly challenging, especially if we are used to criticizing ourselves. Over time, this practice can help us cultivate a genuine attitude of acceptance and care for ourselves, even in our most difficult moments. In Buddhism, sati, or mindfulness, is the practice of being fully present in the moment, aware of what is happening in our mind, body, and surroundings, without judgment. In a world where we are constantly bombarded by distractions and pressured to seek something better in the future, the practice of mindfulness invites us to simply be with what is, here and now. This acceptance of the present moment is essential for developing self-acceptance. When we practice mindfulness, we learn to observe our thoughts and emotions without identifying with them. Rather than judging ourselves for feeling sad, anxious, or frustrated, mindfulness teaches us to welcome these emotions as part of the human experience. It's as if we say to ourselves, "It's okay to feel this way right now." By doing so, we create space to accept who we are, even in moments when we don't feel at our best. In practice, this means training ourselves to become neutral witnesses to our thoughts, instead of being swept away by them. For example, when a self-critical thought arises, "I am a failure" or "I never do anything right," instead of immediately believing it, we can simply note it, "Here is a self-critical thought." This small shift in perspective can be profoundly freeing, as it gives us the choice not to identify with our negative thoughts. Mindfulness practice can also help us notice how often we seek external validation or compare ourselves to others. By being present and accepting the moment, we realize we don't need to be better or different to deserve love and acceptance. We can allow ourselves to be exactly as we are, knowing that we are already complete and enough. Another fundamental pillar of Buddhist teachings is the concept of anicca, which means impermanence. The idea that everything is in constant change might initially seem unsettling, but it actually holds great potential for liberation, especially when it comes to self-acceptance. By understanding that nothing stays the same, including our emotions, thoughts, and even our identity, we begin to see that we don't have to cling so tightly to who we believe we are or to our current circumstances. In our society, we often seek stability and permanence in aspects like our career, relationships, and appearance. We want certain things to stay the way they are, while we strive to change those we dislike. This leads us into a constant cycle of anxiety and frustration because, in reality, everything is in a continuous state of flux. Buddhism teaches us that accepting anicca is embracing the nature of life, allowing us to navigate changes with greater lightness and fluidity. When we apply the concept of impermanence to self-acceptance, we start to see that our mistakes, flaws, and even insecurities are not permanent. Just as a storm eventually clears to reveal a clear sky, our feelings of inadequacy will also pass. By recognizing that even our moments of self-criticism are temporary, we can treat ourselves with greater kindness and patience. Accepting impermanence also helps us let go of the rigid identities we've constructed for ourselves. Perhaps we identify as an anxious person or someone who's not good at dealing with change, but these are simply stories we tell ourselves. When we understand that everything is in constant transformation, we gain the freedom to reinvent ourselves at any moment, realizing that we're not bound to a fixed version of ourselves. As we explore the Buddhist teachings on dukkha, anatta, karuna, sati, and anicca, we begin to understand that self-acceptance is not something that happens overnight but is the result of ongoing practice. Buddhism offers us a variety of practices to help cultivate this acceptance in a deep and lasting way. By integrating these practices into our routine, we can develop a more loving and compassionate relationship with ourselves. Vipassana meditation is a practice that helps us see reality as it is, instead of getting lost in the stories we tell ourselves. By sitting in silence and observing our thoughts, bodily sensations, and emotions without judgment, we begin to see that everything is impermanent and in constant flow. During this meditation, we can observe how feelings of self-criticism or inadequacy arise, linger for a while, and then dissipate. By recognizing these emotions as merely temporary phenomena, we can develop a deeper acceptance of who we are in the present moment. Sit in a quiet place, close your eyes, and focus your attention on your breath. When thoughts or feelings arise, simply observe them without trying to change or push them away. Say to yourself, "This is just a thought. This is just an emotion." And watch them pass by like clouds in the sky. As previously discussed, the practice of metta is a powerful way to cultivate self-acceptance. It helps us direct feelings of love and kindness toward ourselves, especially during moments of self-criticism. Repeating phrases of kindness helps us break the cycle of negative thoughts, replacing them with positive intentions. Close your eyes and imagine yourself, as if you're looking at yourself with a gentle, welcoming gaze. Repeat the following phrases: "May I be at peace. May I be happy. May I accept myself exactly as I am. May I be free from suffering." As these words resonate in your heart, allow yourself to feel the warmth of compassion for yourself. Incorporating mindfulness into your daily activities is a practical way to cultivate ongoing self-acceptance. By bringing full attention to simple moments, like eating, walking, or bathing, you can train your mind to be present, instead of getting lost in self-critical thoughts. Choose a simple task, such as washing dishes or preparing a meal. As you do this task, focus entirely on what you're doing. Feel the texture of objects, notice the colors, take in the smells. Whenever your mind starts to wander to negative thoughts, gently bring it back to what's happening in the present moment. Accepting both internal and external changes is essential to freeing ourselves from unrealistic expectations of perfection. Reflecting on anicca can help us let go of the labels we create for ourselves, recognizing that we're always a work in progress. Take some time to reflect on a recent challenge you faced. Ask yourself, how has this situation changed over time, or what thoughts or feelings have shifted since then? Write your reflections in a journal, noting how even the most difficult situations eventually change. The key to reaping the benefits of these practices is consistency. Try to set aside a few minutes each day for these meditations and reflections. It can be helpful to establish a small daily ritual, such as meditating upon waking up or practicing metta before going to sleep. Over time, you'll begin to notice your mind becoming more open, compassionate, and, above all, kinder to itself. By adopting these Buddhist practices, we become more aware of our patterns of self-criticism, learning to replace them with an attitude of acceptance. When we understand that we don't need to be perfect to be worthy of love, including our own, we take a significant step toward a more peaceful and fulfilling life. The Buddhist practices we've explored, from Vipassana meditation to cultivating loving kindness through metta, are powerful tools for developing a more loving relationship with ourselves. They help us let go of self-criticism and free ourselves from the unrealistic expectations we often impose on ourselves. Every moment that we practice being present and kind to ourselves brings us closer to a more serene and fulfilling life. The journey to self-acceptance is ongoing and requires patience. It's not about reaching a permanent state of peace or happiness, but about learning to embrace the entirety of human experience, with all its pains, joys, flaws, and successes. Buddhist teachings show us that by accepting our imperfections and embracing who we are, we can live more authentically and freely. So, each day, we encourage you to continue this practice. Remember that each moment is an opportunity to start anew, to treat yourself with greater kindness, and to accept that you are already enough just as you are. By cultivating this inner acceptance, you will not only find greater peace within yourself but also create a space for others to feel accepted and loved. May you be at peace. May you be happy. May you accept yourself exactly as you are.